Indonesia dan India itu mirip, tapi juga beda banget dalam beberapa hal. Nah, hari ini Sita mau tanya-tanya 4 orang India yang pernah tinggal di Indonesia. Gimana ya cerita mereka? Yuk kita dengerin ceritanya.
My name is Sandeep Bangara. I was born and brought up in Bangalore, India. I've been living in Indonesia since 2011.
My name is Rita Srivastava. I am from Kolkata and I have been living here now for the last, I've forgotten, 28 years, 27 years, almost 30 years, I think.
I'm an advertising professional, an engineer turned advertising professional. I worked for around 9 years in India. Then I moved to Sri Lanka, and then I've been in Indonesia in an advertising agency for last 20 years. And in terms of my interest and hobbies, I do write poetries, and poetries in Hindi. So that's me.
My name is Saraswati Suresh. I have been in Indonesia for more than 2 decades now. I'm an experienced teacher, educator with 30 years of experience, having taught children of all age group and in reputed schools in Indonesia and in India, because I like to engage people. So I started my own YouTube channel where I educate viewers on of all age groups, basically on Hindi fundamentals and must-have writing skills for students, and to promote the adoption of Hindi language, basically. And I host my own podcast and talk show called Manthan with Saraswati, where I discuss topics ranging from cultural aspect, social issues, to well-being, and focusing basically on Indian culture. And as I said, I involve with local communities and speak about 6 languages and Bahasa Indonesia very, very frequently. Thank you.
When I came here for a business trip, I was based in Singapore. I landed here in the night, maybe at around 10:30, 11, and I was, of course, picked up from the airport, sent to the hotel, which is in Hayambaru. So, coming from a place like Singapore, which is so sterile, I felt, a lot of freedom when I landed in, landed in Jakarta airport. The smells and the atmosphere, felt a lot like India. So, of course, that day was uneventful, but the next day, when I went to work, and, I got to see Jakarta city, it was like, wow. The malls are maybe 2-3 times bigger than the malls in Singapore. The people are warm, friendly. Of course, I got my first experience of sitting in a traffic jam for about 2 hours. So, yeah, that was, my first experience. And I remember calling my wife and saying, wow, you must make a trip this weekend. Because I used to spend at least 2 weeks in Jakarta, 1 week in Singapore, back and forth. I love food. And when I first came to Indonesia, I was staying in Hayambaru. So if you know Mangga Besar, the road which goes out of Hayambaru, during the day it's a regular road, but in the night it turns into a food street. You get everything, from very simple food to exotic food. So when one walks down the road, you will get, the fish fries and whatnot. And then if you go further down, you get snake and, the other animals. So that was my first time I actually had eaten snake. So it was a really wonderful experience. I did not feel any culture shock in general. The only thing that would, shock an expat is that here there is no sense of urgency. So one needs to plan well in advance. Unlike other countries, where you have to. The rule is to deliver. Here people take things at their own space. So you need to sink in with the local culture to understand how people work, and then you will be able to probably achieve your goals or whatever. Another thing, what I liked about Indonesia is, although it's the most populous in terms of Muslims, people live and let live. And that's something I really, really like and appreciate in this country. Cultural wise, it's almost the same. People are nice, friendly, warm. If you look at the food aspects, we have different varieties of cultural foods in India as well as here. But I noticed that Indonesians are more calmer. I have never seen road rage on the roads over here. I myself have been in, a couple of small incidents when my driver rear-ended another car, and all they did is they come out, check and see, okay, is everything okay? It's okay, and then keep going. Unlike, when in India, where it would end up in a big fight and calling the police and whatnot.
I came here with my husband, came here on a 2 years contract. He said, I'm coming to Indonesia for 2 years, and I was working in India, so I didn't want to come. So I said, I don't want to go. He said, no, only 2 years. Just come for 2 years, and then after that, you can go back and do whatever you want. So we came for 2 years. Myself, my husband, and my young daughter. I think the day after I reached over here, I told my husband, okay, I'm giving up my job, I'm staying here. He said, what, in one day you decided? I said, yeah, I just love it here. I mean, it seems so much like India, and yet it's so different. So, there's the attraction of both similarity and opposites. Actually, when I first arrived, we were coming from Calcutta. So when the flight is about to land, I look out of the window, and I'm like, are we back in Calcutta? Because it's like palm trees, coconut trees, ponds, rivers, thatched roofs. It looked exactly like how Calcutta looks from the air. So I was like, what, are we back? And I'm talking about 30 years ago, when there were no toll roads near the airport, there was no concrete, everything was green, and it was very different. And I was like, I think we're back in Calcutta. That was my first impression. And of course, once we landed and then we reached the center, you pass through Sudirman and all that. And then you realize that, no, this is not Calcutta. This is, in some ways, it's very advanced compared to India at that time. And yet, in some ways, it still had a lot of the feeling of like a kampung, literally, on the outskirts of Jakarta. So we had just come to Indonesia, and it was my daughter's birthday party. So we had got our car and some friends of ours and my daughter's friends. So there were 3-4 cars, and we were all driving. We lived in Chilanda. So we were driving to Ancol. And we were, Ancol has these beautiful finisi, those old wooden ships which go from island to island. So we were planning to take all the kids and go on one of these ships. And the ship captain had told us he would take us around and show us and, take a little trip in the harbor. And so we were all very excited about that. This is in the days before GPS, before Waze, before Google Maps. So none of us actually knew the way. But our driver told us, don't worry, I know the way. So we were all, so you just follow my car and we know the way, I know the way, and we'll reach there. So we start, and he doesn't know the way. Somewhere along the way, he gets lost. And then, but he doesn't want to ask anybody, because that will show that he doesn't know the way. So he keeps going, and all of us, and these 3-4 cars are following behind us. All of us are going meandering in and out. And we were supposed to be there at, say, 11 in the morning. And it was 12 o'clock and we were still nowhere near Ancol. So then finally I told him, I said, if you didn't know, I wish you had just told us. We could have taken a taxi, or we could have done something, whatever. And obviously I didn't say it this politely because I was new to Indonesia. So I said it in a more angry fashion, without knowing that you can never show anger. And so he just stopped the car. And he said, okay, 1 minute, madam. So he got out of the car. I thought maybe, he wants to go and ask for directions or whatever. So we are sitting in the car, and he just walked off and he never came back. Okay, the birthday party somehow got ruined or whatever. So then 2 days later, anyway, somehow we managed to kind of find our way home. And 2 days later, he came and said, I'm very sorry, but you spoke to me so badly in front of your guests. And I was very upset. And I was like, I felt so miserable and I was so upset. I said, look, I'm very sorry. But that is what really taught me. You have to adjust to the people that you're with. They are not going to adjust to you. Actually, I find there are so many similarities. The emphasis on family, the way religion is such a huge part of our lives, both here and in India. Our hospitality, the way we show hospitality to people. I mean, most Indians outside the big cities are also very, very warm people. In the big cities, maybe they are different. Maybe same as Jakarta. But outside, if you go into the countryside, Indians are so warm and so open about everything. So I really find so much similarity between India and Indonesia that sometimes I feel like, I've never left. I've never left India. Well, in some ways, of course, you miss your home. You can never get over that. We always miss India. I always miss India and I always love going back to India. But having spent so many years here, I mean, this feels like home. I will go back to India at some point of time when we stop working, we will go back to India. But then India will seem like a foreign country to me, really, because we have just become so Indonesian in our ways now. It's going to be an again reverse adjustment when we go back. But that's okay. That's life.
When I came to Indonesia, the impression was, the image was very, very different. But when I came here, I realized that it's not a small country. It's a huge country. Domestic flight from Jakarta to Jaipura can take you 5.5 hours to 6 hours to fly. So it's a large country. The people are very welcoming and friendly. I realized that everybody in Indonesia is always smiling. Even when a cop catches you on breaking a traffic signal, the cop will first smile, salute you, smile at you, and then ask you for your license and give you a ticket. So the people are very nice and very, very polite. Culturally, I feel Indonesia is very, very close to India in terms of the social fabric, the cultural values. So much so that I realized that, when I went to Bali, I realized that people in Indonesia believe that Mahabharata and Ramayana originated from Indonesia. So first impression was that a country which is very, very similar to India, but in certain ways different to India as well. First time when we went to Bali, we did not understand the language much, so we were we had taken a tourist bus, and me, my 2 young kids and wife, we got off the bus at the bus stop, and we were given a little time to go around and come back. And we went around and we were coming back after 20 minutes. And then my wife said that, do you remember which bus did we got off from? What was the name of the tour operator? And I said, Parivisata. I'm very smart. Your husband notices all these things. And I know we came down from the bus where the name of the operator was Parivisata. And we come back to the bus stand and we see hundreds of buses written Parivisata, because Parivisata is tourism. So we got totally lost looking for the bus, which was our bus, with hundreds of buses written Parivisata. So those kind of language experiences, then, there was this thing of noticing every second doctor in my area in Polomas. When you drive around, there are a lot of doctors who practice from home. A lot of doctors written as Dr. Gigi. And I was wondering that this Dr. Gigi is everywhere, he is so popular, every second place he practices. And later on, I realized that Dr. Gigi is actually a dentist. So these kind of adventures personally on the language we had. So very interesting experiences. And I get surprised by the positivity and resilience of Indonesian people. There is this one particular term which is untung masih ada. So which makes everything so positive, everything so easy to absorb. And I experience this with the people around me, that if they have an accident and their left hand is fractured, they will end up saying that, tidak apa-apa, untung masih ada right hand. So I think this whole positivity and resilience is the biggest shock that I got, that, how come people in Indonesia are so positive about everything. And I really love this term, masih untung ada. Very similar in terms of culture and social fabric and the construct of the society. But it is different in some ways. For example, language also, there are quite a few common words. There is kamija, there is meja, there is dunya, there is haran. So these are words which are common, possibly because both of these languages take some inspiration from Sanskrit. But yeah, the difference is makan. Makan does not mean a house like in Hindi. In Indonesia, makan means food. Gambira means happiness, not being serious. A lot of people that I met in Indonesia, a lot of professionals who came in for a year or two from India, they have spent long time. They've spent 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And I'm also one of them. I've spent 20 years and still love the country and love the people and want to be here.
So when I landed in Indonesia in the year 1996, with my husband and 2 children, and my daughter was age 4 and my son was just 6 months. The first city I arrived was in Semarang, Central Java. It's a small, cozy city I remember very, very well. And I had this amazing lady called Budul. She just took us into such amazing care that I literally forgot my own country. Just fell in love with the place. And it's almost 26 years and it's been amazing. So thank you to this amazing place with such loving people, with such genuine love they reflect. And I'm so blessed to be here. See, because I was working here, and I told you that I like to involve with the local community here. So my amazing experience, one funny I will share, but the most interesting experience which I've had is when we would work in school, when there would be like any nationality of India or the Hindi Divas which would come in. So I would take such keen interest and I will pull all my local friends and teach them songs, motivational songs, Bollywood, but motivational songs in Hindi. And, it would be like which script to use, and they will have some pronunciation difficulty. And, so they would do that. And the best experience of me teaching them Bollywood was one of the Mukesh's song, ek din bik jayega mati ke mol. It's a lovely term. Ek din bik jayega mati ke mol, jag mein reh jayenge pyare tere bol. It's, this song is so interesting because it means that, you will leave the world, but the words which you speak, the way you live is what will remain after you. So this would go very well. And I would learn Ibu Kita Kartini, that song for the Kartini Day. So it was interesting, learning from each other. My father was in the army, so traveling was very well known to us. In army background, you travel every 3 years, you shift residence. So adapting to a new state, new culture, new language was very, very, very familiar to me. So when I came down to Indonesia, and as such cultural shock wasn't there, because I started to learn Bahasa Indonesia using SDTV. They would have this Hindi films dubbed in Bahasa Indonesia then. So I learned language like that. No trainer has taught me this language, but the dubbed films taught me this language. So I don't think I had any other cultural shock. But for the expat or the other expat friends whom I know, basically this, what we say, the traffic jam, macet, will probably be a cultural shock. But I personally fell in love with the Javanese culture and the Balinese culture for sure. India and Indonesia share many similarities. Okay, culturally they are connected, and practices, especially Indonesians, influenced by Hinduism. Like being a Hindu, this is what I feel. India is a larger country and the second largest in population, right? We all know this. And so similar to Indonesian, crowd is everywhere. It is chaotic at few places, but both countries, people find a way to get over it. See, in India also we have the buses, the trams and the cycle all on the road. Here also when you're traveling in the car, you can see the Ojek and the Gojek and Speda Motor always on the road. And people do find a way to come out of that. It happens in India, it happens in Indonesia also. But one thing I would like to say here, the Indonesians are more patient than Indians. You know, sabar, very sabar, they are very patient. And India has made rapid strides in technology and sciences and made a mark in the world. We see that Indian CEOs all over the country and, technology, yes, of course. But Indonesia, in the past decade, is catching up, especially on e-commerce and technology. That we are seeing with so much advancement and, in e-commerce especially. Culturally, yes, India has influenced Indonesia with religions like Hinduism and Buddhism, and Islam having been brought by the traders and kings over the centuries. This is what history says. And I'm so amazed to see Hindu gods like Ganesha everywhere. In Jakarta itself, we have a museum where it is full of various statues of Ganesha. Once you go in there and you will be like you're in India or in Indonesia. You will feel it that way. So yes, Balinese tradition and culture is again derived from Hinduism, and so many Sanskrit words, like I said, like so many Sanskrit words, we have it in the local language. And both countries are on rapid growth mode, and I'm sure that we see the trade and commerce will make both India and Indonesia come closer, and people will exchange, will benefit from this exchange, I'm sure.
Indonesia is a beautiful country, beautiful people, and last but not least, I'm an Indonesian citizen myself. I love my country. I love India as well.
I hope that more people come and see this beautiful country. And I also hope that Indonesians who go to India will also similarly look beyond the superficial. Superficially, of course, India is very crowded, it's very noisy, it's very dirty, but there's so much more to India than just that. I mean, if Indonesians make that little bit of effort, they will also find that India is a wonderful, wonderful country.
It's a beautiful place. It's a must-visit place. You come down here, you will fall in love with this place. And people here are so amazing, and you don't have to worry about any kind of ethnic disparity. It's all love and understanding and pleasing people, amazing people and smiling people everywhere.
कुछ यादों की पोटली है, कुछ यादों की पोटली है, कुछ लम्हों की टोकरी है जो जिंदगी साथ ले चली है. निकल पड़े हैं जब घर से तो हर समय घड़ी दो घड़ी है. कुछ यादों की पोटली है, कुछ लम्हों की टोकरी है. Thank you.